Another week, another edition of the Walkoff Mariners podcast. My name is Jordy, joined with Juan Forno once again to discuss a wild week of Mariners baseball, starting off with a 4-game series against the White Sox. We took 3 out of 4, which is really good. That's what we wanted, but it didn't come as pretty as you would like against the White Sox. 2 of them had to go into extras. 2 of them were walk-offs, a lot of comebacks in the last couple innings, and we made those White Sox starters look really, really good. So I guess the first question is, when it comes to games like that, how much do you take into how you got there as opposed to getting the result? Because we got the result, but how much on the back of your mind is like, it wasn't nice though?
Yeah, in the moment, it's a little bit concerning because you think that the White Sox are a team that you're just going to be able to punish. Maybe except for the one game where Crochet was pitching. I mean, he has like a 1 point something over his last 9 starts. So they give him a pass on that one. And I think we ended up pulling it out late and winning that game because their bullpen is dog shit.
The Crochet one, we tied it up in the 9th, and that was the one we lost.
Oh, and then we lost it. Okay. So,
we lost in extras.
You lose a game where you're going against a starter like that. I mean, I'm okay with it, especially because it's hard to win 4 games in a row, even if it is against a dog shit team like the White Sox. So we went into the week knowing we had to win 3. You hope for 4 against a team like the White Sox, but you absolutely cannot split that series against them, and they did. So, if it was a team that was reeling and not winning games, then it would be more of a concern. The way they won. But at the end of the day, they're in first place by a lot. So you can't read too much into it or beat yourself up because you didn't punish a shitty team. Win's a win, in my point of view.
And I'll take the 3 wins, but I do hope that there is kind of some things that you can say, all right, we won. And then right after it happens, celebrate, have a good time. But the next day, that's when you got to be like, okay, so we obviously know where we need to improve. So as long as you're just not kind of content with it, right? You still got to know where to improve. And it looks like they were working a little harder because that Texas series, what a series. And in my opinion, a little more important than the White Sox series because that's a divisional team. That's the team's second place. So this is where you can create some distance. And we did. We swept them. How do you feel after the sweep?
Yeah, I think that was like a defining divisional series, right? Houston is still reeling. We're waiting for them to turn it around. Now it's getting into almost July here. So it's like you're running out of time, and maybe this is who you are this year. So to go in and against Texas, they were in second place, and they could have been 2.5 games back of us, or they could have been 8.5 games back, depending on how that series worked out. And, I think we go into that series thinking we got to take 2 or 3. That way we don't lose ground and we gain a little bit. A sweep is perfect, and that's what they went out and did. And now we're 8.5 up, and like you said, the largest divisional lead in all of MLB. We don't get to decide who's in our division, and we don't get to decide if our division is shit or not this year. We've been punished for the last decade by Texas and Houston. So I think we've paid our dues, and we're allowed to be in an easy division for once.
And playing in the same division as Shohei and Mike Trout for a long time. Too.
Yeah, man.
We've earned this.
Yeah. And we're going to hear it. We're going to hear it at the end of the year if we're still at that 570 winning percentage and, we get a first round bye, maybe depending on what happens in the Central. But I mean, fuck it, whatever. I don't care how we get there. We don't.
By record, we're up there too. Like,
we're fine.
It's not like it's just they're 1 game over 500, but everyone else sucks. No, we're a lot. We're 11 games, 12 games over 500. Yes. This is a legit team right now. And real quick, speaking of the division, how many teams in our division do you think are going to make the playoffs? Do you think it's just going to be the winner, or do you think we're going to have someone sneak into that wild card?
I think based off the rosters and what's going on in the AL Central, I think one of the AL West teams is going to sneak into the wild card. I just do not trust the Royals, Guardians, and the Twins, all 3 of them, to put in what they've put in this far consistently. The rotations are not the best. I understand that Casey's getting some career year performances from guys like Seth Lugo. But I just don't know if those teams are quite there yet. I mean, you could say the same thing about the Mariners, honestly. They haven't proven much recently. Um, but I think like based off, Texas getting healthy, Texas getting Scherzer back, potentially getting a DeGrom back. Who knows what he's going to look like if he does come back healthy. But the rosters in Houston and Texas are too good for one of them not to sneak in, I think. But, right now they got a lot of work to do for sure.
All right, real quick, who are your predictions for the wild card?
I think KC gets in for sure. They're fucking annoying. Uh,
They're too pesky not to.
Too pesky, man, and they're just too fast. I think they do a lot of things right, and I think we saw that. So I think they're going to get a wild card spot. Obviously, one of the Yankees or Orioles is going to get a wild card spot. That's already been determined. We know this. And then I think that last spot is going to come down to the Twins, the Astros, and the Rangers, honestly. Toronto might make a push at the deadline and keep their guys and be in play here. They're not that far out. I think it's like 3 games back of that final wild card spot. And I just don't trust the AL Central teams all that much. I don't know. What do you think? I think it's going to be the Orioles, the Royals, with the Guardians winning the division, and let's go Toronto.
I am going to go with the Yankees just to mix it up on you.
Okay.
I think the Orioles are going to take the division. I think the Yankees are going to get the wild card spots. I think Houston is going to turn it around here. I think they're going to pick it up. So I think they're going to get a wild card spot. And yeah, but for me, it's between the Royals and the Twins. But the Twins are a weird team. I keep thinking they're good, and I keep seeing them do well. And then I look at their record, and I'm like, oh, these guys are okay.
Well, there's just no consistency, is there?
Yeah, exactly.
They'll win 12 in a row.
They went on like, a 9-10 game winning streak, and then proceeded to lose 6 and then win 8. Like there's just
no consistency, right? And I think like Royce Lewis is healthy now, and motherfucker's hitting. I know this because I have him on fantasy. He's got like 7 home runs in 12 games this year or some bullshit like that. And Correa's hitting, so he's hitting like 400 in the month of June. They could sneak in. I just don't trust them because of the inconsistencies.
Yeah, they're super weird. And I imagine it's stressful on the fans, but let's be real. I don't think anyone has it more stressful than us right now. Just with all of this chaos ball this team has been playing. We've been seeing it for a few years now, though. Is this just these 1-run games? And we have such a good record in the 1-run games, which thank God, because it seems like every game we're playing is just that tight. I'm kind of curious. How do you feel? Because on the one hand, right, when you win those games, it's such a good feeling, but we're doing it every time. How are you enjoying the chaos ball as a fan?
Honestly, I've been really enjoying baseball in Seattle right now. I went to, I believe it was Wednesday's game against the White Sox, and they walked off in extra innings. The Haniger blew over first base. I was at that game, and it's fun, man. I think we knew this season, and it depends, right? It depends on the team and your roster construction, but I think we knew we were in for a lot of tight ball games, a lot of 3-0s, 3-1s, 3-2, a lot of run, tight ball games, a lot of, save opportunities. Obviously, Munoz has not been able to carry the save load himself because we're in an exorbitant amount of 1-run games. But I think we came into this season expecting the pitching to carry us, and we knew we weren't going to score a ton of runs. We never have, since the good old days of Griffey and A-Rod. So I think it was expected, and I think it's okay. It's exciting for the fans, and it's based off of how we built this roster. So I think it's fine. It's fun, and it's going to have to continue for us to be where we want to be at the end of the year for sure. We're not going to win barn burner 10-8 ball games very often.
While I do agree with you, I think my doctor would enjoy it if they had a couple more decisive wins, because I have no idea how good this is for my blood pressure. Because boy, howdy, some of these games have me just on edge the whole time. So
that 5-0 Sunday was nice.
Yeah, exactly. Mix in a couple more blowouts once in a while.
Do you find so I was watching the game Sunday. It was my birthday yesterday, so I watched the game in bed. It was beautiful, with a beer. Fucking 10 out of 10, maybe
Oh,
my
I
favorite.
love a bed beer on a birthday.
Oh yeah,
That's the three B's they always talk about.
so good. Bad birthday beer, baby. Four B's. But and then I was sitting there and I couldn't remember the last time we had such a stress-free game ever.
Yeah,
We
it
felt
was.
at it against Kansas, and then
Yeah, I
that
was just about to bring that one up. Well, there was one inning where we're like, oh, cool. A game with no issues is going to happen.
yeah, not so much. Fuck.
By the way, happy belated birthday.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. 32 years young and my back is letting me know.
We've all gone through it, man. We've all gone through it. I take back issues over the hangovers that come at my 32. So,
Dude, are you 32?
yeah,
Oh, shit.
I'm a few months older than you. No biggie.
I thought you were a baby.
No,
Oh.
just built like one. Let's talk about that offense we got going on, because we have talked about low scoring and stuff, but the numbers have improved since a significant move. Before we discuss the move itself, I do have somebody tweeted out these numbers. So we went from 28th in runs, and we're up to 9th in this span since firing Brand Brown. 11th in Fangraphs WAR since then. The offense has improved. The walk rate has gone up in that span. Now, obviously, it is a small sample size. It's been, 2 weeks, if that. But do you think the offensive improvement is a coincidence, or was that the right move, firing him? Does it have more of an impact than we had originally imagined?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to a hit Brown's strategy. I mean, they went into detail about how, you just locked in on a pinpoint spot and you go attack that zone regardless of pitch. And I think it just wasn't working. With that being said, I do want to give him some good graces because we were through a fucking meat grinder of a schedule when he got fired, and then it softened up a little bit. The schedule got a lot softer after he was fired.
Well, we've been up against the Angels, Athletics, White Sox. The Rangers pitching is still falling apart. Yeah.
So it's not like they're going out and scoring 8 against a guy like, fucking Suarez from Philly. They're not going out and putting up numbers against Garrett Cole in New York. So it's tough to say. I think the philosophy was flawed, and I think the guys are adapting a lot better and hitting a lot better. I mean, you still got to hit a 98-mile-an-hour fastball, and they've been chasing some good relief pitchers too. They've been getting on bullpens, so I think it's
got Julio homering off both Mason Miller and Michael Kopech on pitches over 100. So
that's not easy to do, right? So I do think there is something to be said. I think Julio's numbers are very telling that maybe there was an approach issue there, but I do think the soft schedule has played somewhat of a part as well.
Well, and my original thought when it happened was because he's the offensive coordinator, but they still have a swing coach and an assistant swing coach. So my hypothesis was kind of that there was a little bit of a differing philosophy approach, which that never works out when you're getting two different pieces of advice. So there might have been a little bit of that going on as well. But right now we're still winning. So I'll take it.
Let it roll, man. Yeah, I mean, they're hitting better and they're scoring runs a lot better. So let's hope that continues. Let's hope that Julio has turned that page and this is the player we expect him to be, and it seems unfair for a 23-year-old kid to have these expectations, but he's proven it. He's given us a reason to have these expectations, and he's always a slow starter, and we're seeing him come out of it, and I hope that is true. Like I said to you the other day, hopefully this is the start of him being good, and then we looked at some numbers and it was like, oh fuck, he's been good almost the last month.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, yeah, the expectations are high and whatnot, but there has been nothing about the way he acts and the way he moves around that says he doesn't like the attention and the pressure. So I think he fully embraces his role. So we'll keep,
say, I also think, and I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong or if you've noticed otherwise, but it seems like he holds himself to that utmost standard, that MVP caliber standard, but it never seems like he's not having fun.
Absolutely. No, I would totally agree with that because even in his preseason interviews, he was not happy with how he performed last year. He said it. He's working hard, so he definitely has super high expectations, but he's always the first guy out of the dugout to celebrate a home run.
Big
There
smile.
was a pitch that was pretty close. I believe it was up and in on Ryan Bliss. Guess who was jumping over the fence, like standing there just in case things broke out. We saw it on the Cal Raleigh home run. He was celebrating around the bases like he was the one who hit the home run. So he's absolutely still having fun. He is definitely showing that he's a team first guy, which is
Yeah.
another thing you love to see from a guy who's your future.
And you gotta love the fact that he's playing this way even after he's given the contract. Like he's taken care of for the next decade. We don't have to worry about it. We can
He's
look,
set for life.
we can look at the contract a couple of years from now and go the Mike Trout route and say, hey, you've done so much for this organization. We'll restructure this, or we'll lock in your, triggers because his contract is so fucking weird and complicated that none of us know exactly how much he's making. But he's good, and I love the fact that he's not letting the pressure and the struggles and the peaks and valleys get to him, and he's still having fun and he's still putting his team first. The vibes are good, man. The vibes are very good around this team right now.
Especially, have you been keeping up the videos on Instagram where they've got some social media manager just on the way to the clubhouse filming it and getting the guys' reactions walking out? And I love the Ty France headbutt every time.
Yeah, man. They seem like they genuinely enjoy the team that's around them, and they're having fun leads to a lot of wins. Liking who you're playing with leads to a lot of wins. And I think now you have to keep that in the back of your mind when looking at the trade deadline. The team is gelling, and whether they're the most talented or not, when the team is gelling, they're going to play well. That's a tale as old as time. Anytime you hear there's conflict in the clubhouse, that team tends to start performing poorly. So you got to be careful about who you bring into that clubhouse at the deadline now.
So, of the players who are available, who is a vibes guy that you're like, yeah, actually, we should go for it? Or
I,
conversely, who's a vibes guy that you're like, oh, no, don't do it. He's going to ruin them.
there's two names that are polar opposites, and both have been linked to the Mariners. Plenty of reports came out this offseason. Whether they're true or not, we can speculate, but we don't know. But a lot of reports came out that Pete Alonso was not a good clubhouse guy, and I wouldn't go get him, man. Tyler Locklear is playing just fine. Ty France has been hitting the ball. There's no point in letting go of top prospects for this power bat that may or may not hit well and may ruin the clubhouse. If Pete Alonso comes in, out goes Ty France and down goes Tyler Locklear, or vice versa, or whatever the case may be when you work it out, depending on who's involved in that trade. So I wouldn't touch the polar bear right now. And then inversely on the other side, I would go after Vladdy, man. Vladdy's always a high energy, big smile, team first, good vibes guy. And I think him and Julio in the same lineup, playing together and having fun together, they got that Latin flair. I think it's a match made in heaven, man. And I don't think we would have ever dreamed about being able to put those two players together on the same roster even 6 months ago. And now that it's a possibility, if I'm the Mariners, I'm like, okay, this is the guy for sure that can push us. And then if he doesn't want to resign, we'll let Tyler Locklear cook in AAA. And when Vladdy's moving on to the next one and he's won us a World Series with Julio, then we can bring Tyler Locklear up, and those prospects that we would have traded to get Vladdy won't matter.
I agree with Vladdy, especially too, because I feel like if he's not the only one in the spotlight, he can kind of focus more. It is going to be a shame that they're going to have to take the Uncrustables advertisements off the air here in Canada, because those are the best advertisement in television right now. Um, but I guess Springer can take over them. But with Vlad Guerrero, I'm kind of curious. Would you be okay with a Vlad Guerrero trade if it involved Tyler Locklear?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know what else is in the minor leagues underneath him, but Vladdy's good for next year. Vladdy's not a free agent next year, so you worry about it later, right? And you're adding him because you're going to win a World Series either this year or next year. And not to say that it's for sure going to work out, but if you make that trade, it's with the mindset that you're going and chasing a World Series, and that you just gave yourself a 2-year window to go out and do that. So I'm taking those odds every chance, especially with our starting rotation and knowing that our entire starting rotation, in theory, would be coming back next year as well, from Castillo down to Wu at the 5 spot. You can bring all 5 of them back next year. So you got a great window right now. Houston and Texas are reeling. There's a good shot that you can catch Cleveland to get a bye, and not have to play wild card round. Yeah, I'm totally fine. You send Tyler Locklear to Toronto, bring Vladdy back, hope that you can extend him. But if not, it's not the end of the world because, at least as a fan, I can say, fuck, they went for it. They did everything they could. And if we come up short, we come up short. But I think Vladdy pushes us into, potential Yankee, Baltimore, Philly, Dodger territory because of our starting rotation.
I can't believe you used the W word. The Mariners hate the word window, but you're absolutely right. I can't see a time where the window gets bigger. Like, this is the season
You got
to go for it.
right?
Texas is just destroyed with injuries. Houston might be on the down because they are going to be losing Bregman. Tucker's only going to have a year after this. So this is the time to go for it.
Yeah.
Especially, too, because Texas has got some young guys up and coming. And we know they'll be willing to spend money if there's a chance for them. So if this is the year that they're like, you know what, we'll wait another time, we got to go for it now. So I agree. I'm totally okay losing Locklear.
I also think it's going to depend on our rotation, right? Because we got 3 years, I think, with all those guys intact, with Kirby and Gilbert and Castillo. 3 years from now, I don't know if those guys are still around, right? So as much as they hate a window, fuck it, we're in a window now, and we got to go fucking make the most of it, and at least try. If we get it wrong, that's fine. As a fan, I can accept the fact that if we go and trade for Vladdy and it doesn't work out and we lose a hell of a prospect, shit happens. But you got to go for it now. You have to.
Well, and you hate having those seasons where you get so close and your team does nothing at the trade deadline, and you look back on it and you're like, we could have won it if we had just made that one move. You see it all the time across all sports. There's always one or two teams that do nothing at the deadline and they just get right there and then they don't get it. We don't want to be that team that has to look back and be like, man, if we would have went out and got this guy, if we would have went out and got this reliever, we would have totally been able to beat them. So it's just, you don't want a what could have been situation.
Well, and that's exactly it, man. And everybody's like, oh, we don't want to trade the next Jordan Alvarez. Jordan Alvarez got traded to Houston. We don't want to be the club to do that. But it's like, fuck, for every one Jordan Alvarez, there's 20 Danny Holtzens, right? Like, we don't know that these guys are going to turn into anything at the MLB level. And why not go get a proven commodity when we are in a fucking World Series window?
And the other thing people don't bring up is when the Dodgers traded Jordan Alvarez, their farm system was stacked.
Yeah.
It's still, and they've went to the World Series how many times? They've won one. All they do is win. And right now, our farm system is also massive. Like, it's so deep. If we trade a guy who ends up being a superstar, it does matter. Obviously, you want the superstar, but you'd rather get the wins. And what Dipoto and Hollander have done is they've proven they can make a really good farm system. They've done it twice now.
They can fucking draft, and they can develop pitching.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not too worried about them having to trade a couple of starters away, because even if we trade 2 of our top 6 guys, we still have such a deep farm system. You look at the Gabriel Gonzalez trade when we traded for Polanco, everyone was losing their minds on Twitter. Where would Gabriel Gonzalez rank in our top 10 if he were still on the team? I think he's like fringe top 10.
That's exactly what you do, right? Like, and you got to look at a guy like Ty Pete and Tyler Locklear. Tyler Locklear was our eighth best prospect and second round guy last year. He's 23 years old, and he's shown me nothing but the fact that he can excel at the MLB level. His defense has been solid. He picks everything. He ended a game on a diving play, and he has 2 bombs already since being up. He's hit in, I think, 6 of his 8 games. He's gotten a hit with 2 home runs. He's showing that power. So, he has a bright future in the MLB, I believe. And if we don't make a trade, then that's okay, and I'm okay with him. But I would also be totally fine with him being part of a package. He's proven enough to add a tremendous amount of value.
Yeah. No, I'm not too concerned about the farm system if we make those trades. And I am enjoying watching Locklear too. It's always nice when you can call up a guy and he hits well. Right now, the whole team is fun. We would enjoy a couple less strikeouts after 19 against the White Sox, but what are you gonna do?
And win
Let's
them
talk
all.
about what the Mariners' strategy, because we have heavily critiqued their strategy this year, so we kind of got to give them props for the rotation manipulation, if you will use that word. Uh, so Wu wasn't able to pitch, so we switched it around. We had Emerson Hancock going against the White Sox. That way we could line up Castillo, Kirby, and Gilbert against the Rangers to get that sweep. I absolutely love that right now. What did you think of that strategy?
Yeah, I think it's genius, man. I think Emerson has shown us that he can pitch at the MLB level, and the only reason he's not right now is because our rotation is that good. That's the only, like, fucking 27 out of 30 ball clubs, he'd be a starter on that ball club's rotation. And I know his ERA is a little inflated and, he's a little bit hit or miss, but he's young. He's a first round draft pick and he's excelled. I think it was genius the way they did it. Having Jonathan Diaz go game 2 against the White Sox or game 1, I can't remember for sure. It was because Emerson had just pitched and it wasn't his turn up. So, and Jonathan Diaz almost had a quality start. 5 1/3, 3 runs. You'll take that as a spot
Yeah,
start.
that's pretty much all you can ask out of him.
That's fantastic. Every time we'll take that from our 7th starter. No problem. Thank you very much. And then Emerson to come up on the Thursday and pitch 7 innings and give up 2 runs. Fuck, man. I get it's against a struggling offensive team like Chicago, but that plays dividends. And then for the entire league to be put on notice and say, hey, here's our 3 top fucking guys. If we go into a playoff series, this is who you're seeing. And then we may throw Wu at you the 4th time. And then we'll just go back to Luis Castillo. Like, the league's got to be put on notice after they saw what the Mariners just did to the Rangers. The Mariners made the Rangers their bitch with that move, putting Everton on the mound on Thursday.
And it's not even just like, oh, we might throw Wu at you. It's like, if one of these guys kind of falters a little bit, boom, here's Brian Wu. Deal with it.
Well, yeah, and that's exactly it. We bring Wu and Miller, who both have sub-3 ERAs, out of the bullpen. And they can be our long relievers. Those are our long relievers in the fucking playoffs. And that bumps a guy like Bizzardo or Bowman, not Bauman, Bowman, or, these fringe roster guys that we kind of keep bouncing back and forth, back and forth. All of a sudden, you're replacing those guys with Bryce Miller and Brian Wu. Fuck off. You have no chance. You're not going to score. You got to be able to match our pitching to win a series. And, guys like Walter and guys like Kirby and guys like Castillo, they got fucking ice in their veins, man. These guys will be able to pitch and pitch well in the playoffs. We've seen it. Kirby has done it as a rookie.
Well, he got a save against the Blue Jays and then turned around and shut out the Astros through 8 innings, no runs.
Yeah, man. And that's what teams are going to have. And these guys are only better this year. They're only more experienced. They only learn more on how to pitch and work a count and knowing what these hitters are trying to do to them. They got a real shot, man. They got a real shot. I love the move. I love what I saw, bringing Emerson up and then immediately sending him down the next game, giving yourself an extra pitcher out of the bullpen. The organization got this week very, very right. And to win 6 out of 7 games makes all worth it. Love to see it.
So while we're on the topic of pitching, let's go through this new thing we'll do. We'll pick our best pitching performance of the week and best position player. For pitching, it's a tough week. We had every starter put up an absolute gem at some point. Who would you say had the best pitching performance, though? Who would be your pick?
Yeah, it's tough. That's a tough question. And I think the obvious answer is Walter's 8 innings of shutout ball. But I'm honestly, I'm going to give it to Emerson. Emerson is being a team guy, man. This is a dude that had to fill in the rotation at the start of the year, filled in admirably and gave us a couple of good, solid starts. There was some hiccups that weren't good starts, but I'm going to go with Emerson because he did his job. It's not easy to bounce back and forth. And I understand Tacoma and Seattle are very close and it's drivable and that's fine. But for him to go and do what he did and knowing full well that he was going to be sent back down to AAA the very next day, that plays dividends and that takes care of our bullpen and it's going to continue to pay off in the long run. So I got to go with Emerson.
All right. Well, now I feel bad because I just assumed you were going to go with Gilbert. So
Well, it's too obvious.
I had lined up that I was going to go with Miller because he was coming off a not great performance. We'll go so far as to say bad. But what he did against the White Sox, and yes, it is the White Sox, obviously, but you still have to get through a lineup of professional MLB baseball players, which he did. So it's great to see him bounce back like that. It shows a lot of maturity, and it's really good to see that out of a second-year guy. Pumped to see it. Hopefully he can keep it going through next week. So what would you do? How would you go about for position player? Who was your position player of the week?
This one's a no-brainer. This is a no-brainer. It's my boy Dumper, man. It's my boy Dumper. He was clutch as fuck. He was clutch as fuck this week. We got him a little rest too, which was nice. He DH'd some games, but I mean, you walk off G-Slam, you get offensive player of the week automatically from me, man. Especially as a catcher, and he contributed like the first 3 wins of that series, if I'm not mistaken. He played an integral part. It's Cal for me for sure.
I can't believe you're ignoring his stolen base.
2.
and
He's got 2 stolen bases this year.
And scoring from second.
Okay, did.
It's a shaved head, man. He's got wheels now.
Yo, the Buhner is within him. The Buhner is within him.
Yeah, I have to agree. I would love to be like, oh, let's throw another name in. I don't know how you pick anyone else other than Cal. Shout out to Josh Rojas for having an exciting week, though. He had another fun one, scoring from second on a wild pitch.
Bro, that was my runner up was Rojas for sure, just for that play, man. I was like, oh fuck, go, and then he hesitated, and I was like, fuck, you shouldn't have gone, and then he was safe, so it all worked out.
And shout out to Julio the whole time, knowing like you're doing it, man.
Julio was waving him.
Yeah, you see,
like, let's fucking go, dude.
Like, get, don't stop. Okay, upcoming week. Who do you think is going to be the guy for pitching and for on the offensive side of things? I guess not offensive, position player, because it can be defense too.
Yeah, give me Wu in the rotation. I'm excited to see him pitch against Cleveland. That's another first place team, and that's a good test for him right there. That's a good team, and they got that Jose Ramirez guy. I don't know if you've heard of him. I'm taking.
You mean Matt Brash's Birch?
Correct. Yeah.
Well, Matt Brash is out of the bullpen now, so someone's got to dominate Ramirez.
Boss will make him look silly, no problem. I'm gonna go Wu. I'm excited to see what he does against a team like Cleveland on the pitching side, and then on the offensive side, I want to see what Tyler Locklear continues to do. Can he continue performing the way he is right now? We've had such a small sample size. I want to see, and this could be an audition. It could be a potential trade piece for a Vladdy or a Luis Robert or whatever. And if he continues to contribute and continues to play well, he's just adding value to the organization with his play, but also potentially his trade value. So give me Wu and Locklear this week.
And I think these upcoming games for Locklear are kind of going to help make the decision if he stays up or not when Franz comes back. So this is a huge week for him. For me, pitching was, I think Kirby against Miami. This Kirby in Miami. It's not a super pitcher's park, but when you're up against the Marlins, any park is a pitcher's park. And for hitter, I think it's going to be a JP week. Oh. He seems like he's been a little, he's been fine lately, but he's been a little quiet. I think we need a big week out of him. I'm expecting, maybe a home run or two, a couple stolen bases. I'm expecting one big steal out of JP at some point this week.
And can I also say, I know his offense hasn't been where we would want it to be, but he's been fucking lights out at shortstop.
He's been so good on defense.
Really good defensively. I couldn't believe that our defense is 20th. And I think it's because we have 4 pitching errors.
Well, between that, I think they also might go by range and stuff. That and defensive statistics are so weird.
Yeah.
Outside of ranking things by errors, but going with range and all of that stuff, it's so difficult to get it out of a 60 game sample size.
think the stat I saw was fielding percentage.
Okay.
They're like 20th in fielding percentage, if I'm not mistaken.
We also spent how long with Mitch Haniger in right field every day, Dylan Moore at shortstop
Yeah,
at the
that shit
beginning of this,
hurts.
and just the defense itself at the beginning of the season was not the best. It definitely got off to a really slow start, so it's not super surprising in the grand scheme, but these last couple weeks it's been so good on D, especially now that Rayleigh's getting a lot more reps too.
And can I be honest with you, man? I think this is maybe like our best lineup, top to bottom, just defensively. I think you go Luke Rayleigh in left, Julio in center, Dom Canzone in right. Dom's looked fucking good defensively too.
Yeah, he had me worried at the beginning of the year because there were just some pretty simple mistakes he was making and just misplaying, but he's picked it up since coming back.
Come on, man. Third base, you go Rojas, obviously. Shortstop,
He's looked so good.
Yeah, shortstop, you go JP. Second base, honestly, I think Bliss has played better than Polanco, which is infuriating, to be honest. but I was harsh on Bliss his first couple of games, but I think he just needed to adjust to the speed of the game, and we've seen that now. We've seen him turn some really good double plays, and then you give me Locklear at first base, Cal behind the dish, man. I think that defense does not give up very many runs with our pitching staff, and I think that we'll score enough runs if we're smart enough. We just got to manufacture, right? Have Bliss bunt. Have JP do the little things. Julio stealing bases, Luke Rayleigh stealing bases, Dom Canzone run into one for us once a game. I think that lineup does a lot for us, and then you can put Garver in the DH, and you can bounce some guys around and get healthy or stay healthy. But defensively, we may not be that bad.
I also kind of, if that's it, I would almost rather have France DHing over Garver at this point. He's just outperforming Garver. But who cares?
Yeah, I think I just trust Garver's power a little bit more. They're both slow as shit, so I just want home run. They're both so fucking slow that I just want
who's got to hit bombs. Someone just got to hit
you off the base paths. I don't want to see you run. That's my only point between those guys.
Before we wrap up, let's talk July 6th. It's coming up. It's just around the corner. We are live on Eventbrite right now for Baseball Town Seattle. You want to take it from here? Pump it up.
Yeah, July 6th at the Cafe in Pioneer Square of Seattle. We're going live. We're joined. The two of us will be there live. Come hang out with us. We got Scott Belford, Reese Green, and of course, very special guest Taylor Saucedo. We may have another guest, but it depends on options and up and downs and everything else around. But Taylor Sauce will be there for sure. Good Lord willing. And we're going to have fun. So get your tickets, get your meet and greets. We're going to have merch that is going to be signable. We'll get some prints of posters and stuff as well if you want some on the lower end cost wise. But it's going to be a fun night. It's going to be one of a kind event in Seattle. Shit like this doesn't happen or exist. We're really excited. We hope to see you there.
And I'm sure Saucedo would love to see some You Play 9 innings shirts. That's what we're talking about that too.
You play 9 innings.
You wear that shirt, he would be so pumped.
Yeah. Oh, fuck. He would love that. And then, and also, if you happen to meet Saucedo, if you come to get a meet and greet and you see him, please point out the fact that Bryce Miller is allowed to hang out with the Seattle pup and he isn't.
I love that tweet of just how devastated he was. We should bring that up.
Absolute bullshit in the words of Taylor Saucedo.
We'll just spend the whole time asking why the clubhouse dog doesn't like him.
It's gonna come up for sure.
All right, so that's gonna be all for this week's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Follow us along at Walkoff Mariners on Instagram and Twitter now. I got the Twitter set up. We're officially old enough to have Twitter accounts, apparently.
Dumbass.
So follow us up on there, join in the discussions, comment, and thank you so much for watching. Feel free to join the discussion on our YouTube page as well. We'll hopefully see you next week. As on behalf of Juan Forno, I'm Jordy Bott saying goodbye.